right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. Actually, I've got a bunch of stories for you guys today. I've been sick for like the last week, so we've got a bunch of stuff to catch up on, a bunch of stuff that I haven't talked about yet, so this is probably going to end up being a longer video. I've had whatever flu has been going around or whatever, and I've been like just out. And I'm still kind of feeling it. I'm sure you can kind of hear it in my voice a little bit. I'm sure I sound a little bit different still because I still don't feel great. But we've got a lot to talk about, so let's get started here. We are now less than 4 weeks out from the 2025 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. And today we got two updates from Samson Dauda. So we got an update on his story where he's talking about his prep, and we also got the physique update that you've been looking at as we started out this video. So the update, the most muscular, this was posted at exactly 4 weeks out from the Arnold Classic. Now, the update today, he's talking about his current look, he's talking about his coach, he's talking about this prep, and I thought the significant part of what he talked about on his story today was that he actually said the same thing a lot of us have been saying, is that he thinks he looks better than he looked for his Olympia prep, and he thinks that this package at the Arnold will be better than the Olympia. He said he's been surprised that a lot of this prep he's still been growing, and he's still been seeing new detail come out, and he's been surprised at the amount of fullness that he still has at this point in his prep. And it sounds like everything has just been coming together for him really well, and this prep has gone pretty smooth. And he gives his wife a lot of credit in these stories. I'm going to roll that clip for you guys right here, but I do think it's significant that Samson also believes he will look better than the Olympia here. Because we talk about how a lot of guys, you know, almost every guy, when they go into a show, of course they're going to say, I'm going to win, I'm going to look great. But it's a little bit different for Samson because the Olympia was like the crowning achievement of his career up until this point. And for him to say he's going to look better than that is a step beyond just saying he's going to win the Arnold. So I think that is a big deal. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Here's the clip.
It's quite interesting because I want to see what this is going to lead, especially coming into next year's or this year's off season once the Arnold is done and having a long break and then going into the off season and then going to the Olympia. How much more muscle we're going to be able to put on, because it just seems to feel like we're not even close to hitting our limit of growth yet. But he's still able to not just put muscle when you're on low calories, but, you know, it just seems to do it all the time, even when every theory tells you that you shouldn't be putting on muscle at this stage. But it just happens, and we've refined details keep coming in each time we prep, and it's exciting. Because this time going on the stage, we already know that the look is going to be better than the Olympia look, and already that is something that's exciting to see, you know, come that stage time. And, you know, obviously working with Mel, she's figured this stuff out so well and how to pick me into a show that she don't miss. Don't even worry about that. She ain't gonna miss. So if it's that cool-headedness and that relaxedness of everything, and not just keeping me relaxed, but being relaxed yourself and knowing that we already got this stuff figured out, is something that feels you confident when you prep and you go into a show. Especially a show like Arnold, which is obviously like always like the second show after the Olympia. It's like almost a continuation of a prep. It's almost like you still remember very freshly what you did at the last show you did. Remember what we did at Olympia. So you kind of just repeat that and make it better and refine it as you go into the next prep. And this Arnold prep just going to be a testimony of that. He's making what we did at Olympia prep that worked, refining and making better for this prep, and it's worked. So
now let's switch gears a little bit from Samson Dauda, who is probably the favorite to win men's open bodybuilding at the Arnold, to Mike Sommerfeld's update that he just dropped today. And a lot of people would argue that Mike is the favorite to win the Arnold based on his Olympia placing. So you got a front lat spread here in the famous Arnold twisting back double bicep and another back pose. And again, these are all under 3 weeks out from the Arnold. And yesterday, we got some updates that I thought were even more impressive than these from Mike. A most muscular, a mantis pose, some back and side shots. These updates from yesterday really show off not only the size that Mike has, but also the graininess that he's got to his physique right now, which is pretty crazy. I mean, Mike looks nothing short of spectacular in these updates, and this could be the biggest show of his career if he wins this Arnold Classic. But the man standing in his way is none other than Wesley Vissers, who just a couple days ago posted what he said will be his final physique reveal until the show. Because, again, despite Olympia placings, Wesley is still the defending Arnold Classic champion in Classic Physique. And these updates were about what I expected. It was nothing like super crazy mind-blowing. Wesley looks how he usually looks at 4 weeks out. As far as his upper body goes, crazy size, crazy width, crazy taper, and just detail all over his physique in crazy places, crazy striations in the chest, all kinds of crazy detail in the back, just what you would expect to see from this newer version of Wesley that we've been seeing. It's more of that. And as Wesley said a couple weeks ago, he doesn't show any of his lower body in this update, which again he calls his final physique update of this prep until we see him on stage. But he did say a few weeks ago that we weren't going to see his legs until we saw him on stage. So that's why I say it's a little bit more of the same from Wesley, because there's not a whole lot that we can really deduce from these updates when it comes to Mike versus Wesley when you can't see Wesley's legs, which I think is the big point that Mike really has on him. And I think that's part of the really big appeal of Wesley is you look at a physique update like this, where you look at his upper body at 4 weeks out. In these pictures, he looks like he's the undisputed favorite to win the show. But then you look at these recent placings and you look at how he looked at the Olympia, you look at the lower body, that changes a little bit. But just looking at these pictures alone, he looks like he would be the favorite to win. He looks insane. His upper body looks crazy. But as we know, the pictures don't always tell the full story. So I think this is going to be just an awesome, awesome battle in Columbus for Classic Physique. And I think looking at this handful of other updates from Wesley today, you see even more of that graininess, even more of that detail, even more of that conditioning. It's going to be a really, really good show. Now, next up in the news, since we just spent so much time talking about the Classic Physique rivalry, we would also have to include here Samson Dauda's rival, and arguably his biggest threat at the Arnold, Derek Lunsford, who the head judge, Steve Weinberger, just posted a physique update of. I guess Derek went to go visit Steve at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym and posed for him there at under 4 weeks out from the Arnold, and this was the physique update, this side chest that Steve Weinberger posted of Derek just in the last 24 hours. And I still think what I thought about most of the Derek Lunsford updates that we've seen so far, it looks to me like a different Derek than what we saw at the Olympia, a bigger, fuller version of Derek. And I think that's the exciting thing about the battle between him and Samson is we're going to get to see, I think, not only a different Samson, but a different Derek. Samson looks to be better than the Olympia. We don't know yet if Derek looks to be better than the Olympia. He certainly looks different. But I think that Derek really is the main guy standing in Samson's way of winning that title. He's the guy that Samson really has to beat. Plus, this will also be Derek's Arnold Classic debut. I don't know if we've talked enough about that aspect of this, because for years we wanted to see Derek do the Arnold ever since he won the Olympia, and even the year before that. We've already seen Samson do it a couple times, but this will be Derek's first time, so we also have that to look forward to. It's his Arnold Classic debut. Could he win his first Arnold ever? And that's the other thing that he kind of stands in Samson's way of, is if Derek wins, keep in mind that Arnold Classic prize money is $500,000 for first place. Samson winning the Olympia and the Arnold back-to-back, that would be the most prize money won in 1 year span of time, in just a few months span of time, let alone a year. But that would have to be the record by a lot. 600 for the Olympia, 500 for the Arnold, just a few months apart. Derek is probably the only guy standing in Samson's way of Samson making prize money history as well. Which is one of the reasons that I really like Samson, because when you really look at what he's been able to do, and the fact that he's been able to do it with his wife, the fact that he's been able to go through the turmoil that he has, when he does things like win these crazy amounts of prize money in a calendar year or in a competitive season, what he does is he pushes that bar, he raises it for everybody else. He raises that prize bar for everybody. So when Samson does something crazy like this, if he wins the Arnold, when he wins $1.1 million between two shows, that raises the bar for every pro bodybuilder out there saying, okay, this is what's possible now. And maybe he raises that bar again. And those are the type of bodybuilders that really change the bodybuilding landscape and redefine different aspects of the sport. And I like that Samson is pushing like that. When you see Samson win an Olympia and continue to compete throughout the year, or when you see Samson compete right before the Olympia, just the sheer number of shows that he does alone is crazy. But that's part of what factors into the crazy prize money that he gets in a year. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Derek or Samson? Who do you have winning the 2025 Arnold Classic? Now, next up in the news, we were also treated to some brand new physique updates from Nick Walker today, just 5 hours ago. And now he's weighing 301 pounds in these updates. As this year continues to kind of fly by, and we're already rapidly approaching the Arnold, but now we're rapidly approaching the Pittsburgh Pro, the New York Pro. I mean, March is right around the corner, and so is May. But these updates impress me. I think Nick looks pretty good here. His condition looks good. He looks like he's starting to really heat up his prep, and he is down 2 pounds from his last update like this. He was 303. And even though May is right around the corner, he's still, I guess he'd be 3.5 months about. So he's still got a lot of time to prep for this show. So don't get it too conflated with, all these guys that we're talking about doing the Arnold in a couple weeks. Nick still has a few months. So we got a couple most musculars, a front double bicep, a side chest. And I would say that also, in addition to these recent physique updates of Nick's, I would recommend that you watch, they shot like a really well shot Nick interviewing Nick on the Raw Nutrition YouTube channel. And it was kind of lengthy, so I'll just sum it up here, but watching it, it really gave me a little bit of optimism and a little bit of insight into Nick's mindset going into this show and going into this comeback. And he talks about, all the excuses that he made. He kind of confronts the decision to pull out of the Olympia. He talks about not expecting the amount of backlash that he got. And it really made me feel like Nick understands that he's got something to prove to the fans with this next show, and that he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to bring back the old Nick Walker that the fans were used to seeing. So I think in addition to these updates, in addition to his size being over 300 pounds, which is impressive, I'm expecting to see Nick really bring it in Pittsburgh, really bring it in New York. I think that this shows that he understands this is like an important moment for him and to win some of those fans back over. So I highly recommend you check out that video if you haven't seen it. I thought it was really well done. And I think if you're a Nick Walker fan like I am, it's definitely a must-watch video. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Nick Walker's chances on his little comeback tour here. Because we've got some other guys to talk about that are standing in Nick Walker's way. And one guy that I don't think we've talked about enough, we've talked about quite a bit, but not necessarily in the context of being a guy that could stop Nick Walker. GoodVito, Vitaly Ugonikov. He posted a physique update a couple days ago showing off his quads, which we already knew were just insane. And something that, in the context of Nick Walker, have been kind of a weak point for Nick, his legs, including the injured hamstring, but his quads too. But we've talked a lot about Nick Walker's comeback, doing Pittsburgh, doing New York, and we mostly talk about Martin Fitzwater, because that's the guy that seems to have came the closest to beating Nick before, and that's the highest current Olympia placer on paper from 2024, doing any of these shows that we know about, at least right now. But aside from Martin, GoodVito also looks incredible. He looked incredible at his pro debut. He looked incredible next to Martin. He looks incredible in this update. And GoodVito is also doing Pittsburgh, New York, and the Arnold Classic Brazil. So not only will Nick have to face Martin Fitzwater at these shows, but GoodVito as well. And it's been a while since we've seen GoodVito on stage competing, so I guess we're to assume that this time that he's taken off, he's made some improvements. He's going to come back looking better than the last time that we saw him. And just looking at this update here, how impressive his legs look, is it worth having the conversation of not only maybe Martin stands in Nick's way, of winning these shows. But maybe GoodVito does as well. We talked about Martin. We talked about Regan. We've never seen GoodVito and Nick compete against each other. While we've seen Nick and Martin, the Nick and GoodVito comparison, I think, would be extremely interesting to see. Because I think GoodVito is just as easily in that conversation as a new, young pro that has a chance at being a fast-rising star and beating some big names. And could Nick Walker be a name that he could beat? And then just for a little bit further comparison's sake, we got a recent update from Martin. This would be 14 and a half weeks out from the Pittsburgh show. So just for comparison's sake, put this most muscular side by side with Nick's most recent most muscular. And I think I'm surprised with how full and muscular Martin looks even next to Nick. I mean, Nick is known as the mutant. He's the freak. He's like ultra muscular. That's his thing. I don't think you're going to see Martin look small or get out muscled by Nick. He looks crazy full in this most muscular shot. And I would argue his legs look ahead of Nick's. This conversation about Nick versus Martin, I think, is like a legitimate battle. It's not like just fantasy world, maybe Martin could beat Nick. I think it's really something that's possible. And I think he's a serious threat to Nick at these shows. And like I said, we're still months away from Pittsburgh, from New York. We don't even know what the full competitor list is going to look like. You might see some of these guys, maybe the top guys from the Arnold, continue to prep and do these shows. Those competitor lists aren't going to come out for, 3 more months. It just so happens that some of the names that have committed to these shows already, Nick Walker, GoodVito, Martin Fitzwater, Nathan Diasha, Regan Grimes, just naming a few, it just so happens they're all really big names. There could be a lot more. So the point is, this will not be an easy comeback tour for Nick Walker. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Nick Walker, GoodVito, Martin Fitzwater. Who do you think, who's your favorite for these shows coming up of those 3 guys? Who do you think's going to stand out the most? Who are you impressed by the most so far? Who do you think's going to win? Let me know in the comments below. And I should also mention that there was a clip of Nick Walker in that Nick interviewing Nick episode where he said that Martin couldn't beat Nick at his worst, so he's not going to beat him at his best, implying that his best will be at Pittsburgh. And Nick has also said on the Mutant in the Mouth podcast that his goal is to win Pittsburgh and go to the Olympia, so we don't know for sure that he's going to do the New York Pro. So we're kind of assuming if Nick doesn't win Pittsburgh, obviously he'll have to keep competing to qualify for the Olympia. But apparently his goal, it sounds like, is to just do Pittsburgh and win. We just don't know for sure that that's going to happen. But Nick has been pretty confident both on his podcast and in that Nick versus Nick interview that he's going to win the Pittsburgh Pro. And again, kind of like I say with all these guys, they're all going to say they're going to win the show. So I don't think it's cocky. I don't think it's arrogant. I don't think it's surprising that Nick would say that. The question really is that what's going to happen? Now, next up in the news, I also wanted to include this clip of Shaun Clarida. This was from exactly 4 weeks out from the Arnold, so a few days ago. So it's a little bit old, but again, I've been sick all week, so I missed this, but I wanted to include it in this video. Because like I said a few days ago, the most surprising thing to me about Samson Dauda's Arnold Classic predictions was that he didn't have Shaun Clarida in the top 5. And I think this most recent update that we've seen from Shaun and some of the other updates that we saw from him for this prep, he looks to me better than he's ever looked. Now, we haven't seen his legs yet, and there was a big imbalance in his legs at the Olympia. But upper body-wise, whatever he seems to be doing with Boss of Outlaw Stefan seems to be working. He looks great. And I think he also looked great in Prague, standing next to Chris Bumstead, standing next to Martin Fitzwater, 2 of the best in the world from 2 different divisions, 3 different divisions, including Shaun. I think Shaun Clarida has a really legitimate shot at top 5 here. I don't necessarily know about top 3. It's possible, but I really see Shaun in the top 5. Based on these updates, I would say the same thing about Shaun that we said about Samson. Shaun certainly looks better to me than he looked in his Olympia prep pictures and videos. I think without a doubt this will be a better Shaun than we saw at the Olympia. I think most bodybuilding fans would agree the Shaun that we saw in Prague, which was just shortly after the Olympia, was a much better Shaun than we saw at the Olympia. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this latest 4 weeks out update from Shaun Clarida. Now, for the final story of today's video, let's do a little bit of a fun story here. Sam Sulek. Here's a guy that I never really talk about on this channel, but I'm assuming we're going to be talking about in the very near future. Now that he's confirmed he's just a few weeks out from his NPC competitive debut. Now, he still has not said which show he's doing or exactly when that show is, just that he's a few weeks out. He's getting close. And a lot of people are assuming that it could be the Arnold Classic Amateur. Obviously, Sam is from Ohio. He lives really, really close to the Arnold. It would be basically right in his backyard. It'd be very exciting. It'd be live broadcast. There'd be a ton of people watching it. And it would be very competitive. It would be a good show for a guy as well known as him with a physique like his to make a debut so that people couldn't say, well, you just did an easy show. It's the Arnold Amateur. There's going to be hundreds of competitors there in any given division. But the thing about this is I was looking at the rules for the Arnold Classic Amateur, and you do have to pre-qualify to do the amateur show. And the rule is for the open division, you must have placed in the top 2 of an open class at an NPC national qualifier since January of 2024. This must be an open event and not an NPC natural event. Now, I know there are a couple national qualifiers that are happening in February before the Arnold. I don't think any of them are in Ohio. I don't know if any of them are even in the Midwest. Now, there could be exceptions to this rule. I believe it was, Andrew Jacked, when he did the Arnold Amateur. If my memory serves correctly, that was his first NPC show. He didn't do a show before that to qualify. And in years past, at the Arnold Amateur, there's been like guys that were pretty blatantly out of shape that got discussed a lot because they were on this live stream with a lot of viewers. And you wonder how they qualified, how they got into the show. So I kind of wonder, with somebody with a following like Sam, as big of a name like that, he's got a legit good physique. If the promoters would just let him do the amateur show without pre-qualifying, because it's really up to the discretion of the promoters. And I mean, obviously that would be huge for the Arnold Amateur live stream. And like I said, I don't typically talk about Sam Sulek, even though we actually live really close to each other, like maybe 30, 40 minutes away from each other. But now that he is actually actively pursuing competing, this could be a 2025 storyline. If Sam does well and he's able to get a pro card, I mean, imagine that. If we start talking about Sam Sulek in the context of being an IFBB pro, competing in pro shows, that could be something that happens in 2025 now that he seems to be actively pursuing that. Because as much hate as Sam Sulek gets for his success, I think we all have to admit he actually has a really impressive physique, and that's obviously a big part of his success. So I know there's probably a lot of people that don't like Sam that just want to sit and say, well, he's going to get smoked, he's not going to do good, he doesn't have the genetics for it, whatever. When you keep in mind we're talking about his NPC debut, total amateur, never competed, this is his amateur debut. You got to cut him a little bit of slack for how impressive his physique is now that he's making his NPC debut. We're not talking about a pro debut. We're not talking about doing a national show yet. For a guy just starting his NPC career, he is undeniably impressive. And it sounds like we're going to find out in just a few short weeks how that's actually going to translate to a bodybuilding stage and how well he's going to do. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What show do you think Sam is going to do? How well do you think he's going to do? And do you think he has a shot at getting a pro card in 2025? That's about as long as I can go for this video. My voice, I'm sure you guys can hear it, is already starting to get fried again. But I'm going to try to continue to do some longer videos this week since I wasn't able to make as many videos as I wanted to last week because I was just miserably sick. So I'm going to be trying to make up for that this week, crank out some more videos. And I hope you guys enjoy them, so make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.